During World War I, we experienced war in other countries for the first time and turned the U.S. into a superpower. Industry grew, the women's right movement progressed, and the government adopted the new diplomatic policies. World War I was also a time when the United States first lost a major casualty and was the first time we actually got attacked on our own soil by a different country. It was also the first time that we engaged in warfare that we had no clue what we were doing. The 1920s were a period of dramatic changes. More than half of all Americans now lived in cities, and the growing affordability of mobile automobile made people more mobile than ever. Although the decade was known as the era of Charleston dance craze, jazz, and flapper fashions, in many respects it was also quite conservative. At the same time as hemlines went up and moral values seemed to decline, the nation saw the end of its open immigration policies, the revival of the KKK, the trial of a Tennessee high school teacher for teaching evolution. During the Great Depression, it was one of the greatest and hardest times in U.S. history. Economically, the U.S. was broke and thousands of people were unemployed because businesses were closed. They didn't have the money to keep their businesses open, so they had to end up closing them down and cutting people off. Socially, they were still segregated and blacks were treated worse than whites. This was before the World War II, which ended up ending segregation, and blacks were still not allowed to enter the front of a building, or they would end up prosecuted, hated on, beat up, or worse. FDR's New Deal made a lot of changes in the United States while FDR was in office. The country's economical standpoint was that they were getting more jobs and things were good. Socially, jazz music and artists came out and helped raise people's spirits. This helped a lot of people gain more jobs, get off their rear ends, and actually want to help the country raise the economical standpoint from poor, broke, to upper class and well managed, and kept the country from basically going under and losing everything that we had. During World War II, it was one of the second biggest battles in the world, hence the name World War II. The United States became a superpowered country, and blacks and whites started to work together overseas, but not at home. And the economy was great because we were selling goods to countries and had everybody working. Because of this, we were able to jump out of the Great Depression even faster, created even more jobs, had everyone basically as a patriot, and kept the United States basically at the top. We were number one power in the world. The 1950s was a good year, but then it was a bad year. We entered Korea, the Korean War, and also, but it was good because the segregation ended because they saw how whites and blacks worked together at war. Politically, we had a great president who helped the country both in glory and economically, we were the richest country because the war never touched us at home. So we didn't have to rebuild anything or fix anything. So all the countries came to us for help. It also helped us increase the money we got from other countries because they kept buying goods from us in order to repair their country. The Cold War actually affected more than just the United States. It affected Russia, Cuba, the United States, all of Europe. It basically affected the world. The social class was that we called our neighbors or anybody who was different a communist, and politically we were threatened by communist influence. Economically, we still had jobs, but the communist scare made some people leave their jobs because they thought a worker was a communist, which basically threatened their life, how they thought stuff like that. The civil rights movement caused the blacks to want equal rights and separated the people who agreed with them and also disagreed with them. Anyone that ended up agreeing with them was beaten, hit, even killed sometimes. The KKK took this to advantage and ended up killing hundreds of blacks. Martin Luther King was assassinated during this time. JFK was assassinated also. Between this time and while the Cold War was going on, it was plenty of riots started out, so it was a bad time. When the Vietnam War started, pretty much everybody wanted to join. They thought, oh, well, since my grandparents, parents from World War II came home as heroes, I want to do it too. At home, people thought we didn't deserve to be at war and burned their draft cards and everything. Abroad, our troops died by friendly fire because we couldn't place bombs right, and the government kept them from doing their jobs and treated them like puppets. Basically, the government, they would want to end a supply trail for the North, and the government's like, no, we can't do that, and it ended up killing way more troops than we wanted to ever happen. The counterculture started in the 1960s, where it was a period when long-held values and norms of behavior seemed to break down, particularly among the young. Many college-age men and women became political activists and were the driving force behind the civil rights and anti-war movements. Basically, they did everything they could to stop the war or to basically stick up for the other side that we were fighting for. They would go out, send them supplies, and etc. Basically saying, hey, stop or die. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys really learned something. But thanks again. Bye.